If I were going to write a book about what's happening next, what would I put into it? Woo. Vintage free trade debate.
When did you get this? Look at this thing.
During the free trade debate with Mulroney.
You've had this in your house for.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna give this to me?
No.
Oh, good. It's too. It's also stained, but it's fantastic. Look at this thing. All right. Well, I mean, obviously, thank you so much for coming. This is terrific. I mean, let's just start with the most obvious question. Like, what do you think of the current situation? Like, what do you think of the 51st state rhetoric? And how much trouble do you think we're in as a country?
I think moderate trouble. This is a movie we've seen before, but quite a long time ago. So at the time of the American Revolution, there were attempts to invade Quebec, feeling that Quebec ought to join the U.S. because surely they were against the British who had just overcome them. But in fact, the Quebecers at those times didn't want to do that because they knew they'd lose their language. And they were Catholic, and the U.S. making the proposition was quite firmly Protestant, if not deist.
Right.
So they turned them down. They made a botched attempt to actually invade Quebec. I don't think they were ready for the Winter Carnival.
You think we're in that level of trouble, though?
Are they going to invade us?
Yeah.
I think it would be very silly, but they're doing some pretty silly things. No, I don't think they're going to invade us right at this very minute. But they are going to mess up our economy because they're messing up everybody else's. However, the big thing at issue in the free trade debate under Mulroney was we will become too dependent on the United States. We will sell out, and then we will be under their control, and we will have no recourse.
Obviously in The Handmaid's Tale, but also I think in a lot of the sort of dystopian American fiction that followed it, Canada's kind of a haven, right? Like Canada's like,
Yeah.
And what else is that? The other haven is the future, right? And
Sure, yeah.
And I wonder if you still think that Canada in the future are a haven, or if we're going to get caught up in this catastrophe.
We do not know, but there's lots of historical precedent. So during the American Revolutionary War and right after it, it was a haven. During the Civil War, a haven right before the Civil War. It was the land of Canaan. That's where you could escape to if you were an enslaved person. And people used to get smuggled into Canada quite frequently during those times. During the First World War, there was kind of a mixed assortment. So some Americans came to Canada because they wanted to be in the war and they could join up through Canada. And then others later came because they didn't want to be in the American part of the war. And of course, most recently, the draft dodgers. There was a huge influx of them. So this has been going on for a while. And you're hearing people again saying, I'm going to move to Canada. But their choice is always, do I stay or fight, or do I flee and have a somewhat more peaceful life?
So you still think of, I guess, in the original sort of burst of nationalism, or like I've never really experienced a moment of nationalism.
No, you haven't, because you're too young.
I was too young. Like my first political memory is the free trade debates. I guess I would have been 8. But then, so I've never really experienced nationalism on the level that it currently exists. And I wonder if, you were obviously there, and the draft dodgers were part of it too, right?
I wasn't too involved with them. I was somewhat a generation earlier.
Right.
So I was born in 1939.
Right.
2 months after World War II started. So I'm a war baby. Anybody born after 1950 is a boomer, because the war thing really went on for several years after the war ended. And one of the reasons for that was that Canada put so much money into the war and Britain that there was a capital gap. and things were a lot skinnier here than they were, for instance, in the States right after the war. And that's when the influx of American capital began. It came in to fill the gap. So Britain didn't have any money anymore. And the trade that had existed before that had been transatlantic.
So that's interesting. So like the Canadian nationalism was kind of a reaction to the first time the Americans had such economic clout over us then.
I wouldn't say it was the first time, but it was a big time. And that's what people were reacting to, was the sellout of a lot of Canadian businesses, amalgamations, and mergers at that time.
Right.
But if you go back to World War I, there was a lot of pro-Canadian stuff at that time because the Canadians were doing very well in that war. So after Vimy Ridge, they never lost a battle. And they were so well known for it that they were used in trench coat ads.
Really?
Yes.
What can we learn from the past? How should we not waste this moment? Do you know what I mean?
How you shall not waste it.
Yeah.
Number one, hating all Americans is stupid. So it can translate into that at a very low level, and that's just silly because half of them would agree with you.
Right.
Not with the people who voted for you-know-who. And even a bunch of them are now having buyer's regret. So you can dislike the administration without saying all Americans are horrible. So that is lesson number one. And there was some of that in the 1968 iteration of that kind of nationalism. But back then it was cultural nationalism.
Right.
By which I mean that there were just a lot of institutions and infrastructures that we didn't have. So it was a matter of building them.
I mean, the thing that I find interesting is, we're in this build Canada moment, right? Like that's what we elected Carney to do.
Yeah,
apparently.
but it's more build houses for Canada.
At the same time, though, you guys did build those institutions, right? Like it is possible to do, right? Like it is actually possible not to go to New York, to stay here and build things and have them become real and have them become...
Yeah, it's absolutely possible to do that, but any institution goes through a cycle. And it's the... fire in their eyes founders who are willing to work for nothing and, 24 hours a day and sweat equity and all of that, which is what we did. And then there are the inheritors who then have actual jobs.
Theoretically, that's outfit. Me, but, not in practice.
Somebody pays the money.
Right.
It's sort of novel.
Right.
And that would be the second generation. And then the third generation takes it all for granted. And then things can start to slip.
Right.
Like things have always been this way. They always will be this way. And when they stop being this way, we all have a horrible panic.
Right.
But if you started from zero, you're not too panicked about that.
Right. I think, one of the things we've been doing this show, like we've been doing the show a long time, and there's certain patterns emerge, like talking to these people that I didn't really talk to before in various things, economic fields, military fields, CSIS fields, things like, secret security fields. And there's two things that come up. One is we have an intense desire to survive. There is an absolute, the will is very strong.
Yes.
And everyone can feel it.
We don't want to be them.
We don't want to be them. And that's across the board. It's really, there's a high degree of solidarity. And on the other hand, just a fundamental naivete and a sort of, like, we don't have a secret service that goes into other countries, right? We don't have...
You think?
But, I thought about your work when I heard that because, on the one hand, there's survival as the motif of Canadian life, which fits perfectly with this moment. And on the other hand, I always think about that line you had, I think it was at some parliamentary committee, where you said the beaver, that medieval legend about how the beaver bites off its own testicles.
That was rude of me.
And presents it to the opponent.
Yeah.
Right. And this seems to be some kind of very intense contradiction, which I think actually you can see in a bunch of characters in your work, where you have like very strong and tough, but also kind of naive. Or not naive necessarily, but upright. right?
Well, we think that because we behave in a certain way, that other people will also behave in that way, and that is naive.
Right.
Um,
But
yes.
do you think that's is that contradiction the heart of the Canadian character? I mean, like we're trying to get into like what, I think this is
Okay.
one of those
First
moments.
of all,
Yeah,
Canada is an extremely varied um, location.
sure.
It has never been unilingual. It has never been unicultural. So to talk about the heart of the Canadian spirit is a bit problematic.
Right.
But certainly, why would we not be different from them? We are different in our location. We are different in our climate. We are different in our geology. And north of us, we've got Russia, and north of them, they've got us. And south of us, we've got them.
Yeah.
And south of them, they've got Mexico. So it makes for quite a different sort of mixture.
That history and this sort of, I don't know if it's a contradiction or if it's just sort of an implicit sort of distinction in it, not necessarily in the Canadian character, but in these formative experiences. Do you think that prepares us for this moment, or do you think
No.
it doesn't? Do
Well,
you think it's
nothing
a
ever
risk?
prepares you for moments like this.
Right.
You think you're prepared for them, but you're actually not. So moments of crisis and extreme change, you can be somewhat more prepared and somewhat less prepared, but you're never thoroughly prepared because so much of it is unpredictable,
Right.
as you have just seen in the latest election that we have had here.
I wonder, because obviously, as much as you're an observer on Canadian life and Canadian culture, you're also, an observer of American life. I think the two are related, right? Like I think it's not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
I've
Like,
never thought of
yeah,
that before.
exactly. But the if you like, did you, I think a lot of Canadians are wondering: is it Donald Trump driving the bus off the cliff, or is it the American people driving the bus off the cliff? Right? Like, is this
I don't think it's an either or.
You think it's both?
Well, it was a person who knew how to manipulate an anger that was already there. And that's what Mr. Poilievre was also very good at when that was the national mood. But then the national mood changed very quickly, as somebody said, from someone that we're angry at to a situation in which there's somebody that we're afraid of. So our focus became, instead of angry at somebody within Canada, it became fearful of somebody outside Canada.
It has to be fear either way, I guess. That's the motive.
No,
force.
Anger and fear are somewhat different.
Right.
They're joined at the hip, but they are somewhat different.
I mean, do you think, obviously you've made some of the most important predictions about the future of America. Do you know what like Gilead and and others?
It hasn't come to that yet. You'll notice nobody's running around in real life in red outfits with bonnets.
No, well, they are at the protests.
Yes,
and they are.
they are.
You can't go to a protest without seeing half a dozen. Well, I mean, obviously it resonates. With the bombing of IVF clinics and the abortion banning in Texas. I wonder. I guess there's two ways to ask this question. One is, how would you change your predictions of the past? Or if you were starting a whole new book about where America was going and where Canada was going, what would it look like?
Woo. All right, big picture. There was no internet in 1984 when I was writing the book. There was no social media. That's all pretty recent. And each of these new technologies also goes through a cycle. So Hitler would have been very much different without radio, which was a very new technology then, and people thought they were hearing the voice of God coming out of the radio. Television, same thing when it hit. They had TV dinner trays, little tables, and they had TV dinners, and they would sit in front of the TV like this, eating their dinner. You could see them doing it through their big picture windows. You could see the flickering blue lights, and everybody just mesmerized because it was new. But then it just becomes absorbed into the culture, and it's going to be the same with the internet and social media. People will not be so mesmerized by it, and that's already happening.
You think so, eh?
Oh, yeah, for sure. You're not getting the great big mobby pile-ups on Twitter
Right.
now, X, that you used to get.
Right.
Because a lot of people have turned off of it. So the future, if I were going to write a book about what's happening next, what would I put into it? Woo. What everybody is going to have to deal with is things that are joined at the hip. Electricity supply.
I didn't see that coming, but okay.
Yeah, well, if you're going to have all this automation and AI and things, you're going to need an awful lot of servers. And what is going to power them? So there's that problem. And then, of course, there's going to be some Luddites who want to blow up the servers. I take you back to Henry Ford, who realized that he couldn't automate his factories, which he had the ability to do, because if he did that, there wouldn't be any workers, and there wouldn't be people to buy his cars.
Right.
So,
Well, that seems to be where we're going, right?
Yeah, but then what? So in your deepest, darkest, most horrible imagination, you would have to think, America has decided it doesn't need all these poor people. It doesn't need cheap labor, or it doesn't need that much cheap labor. So what are they going to do? They're going to cut health services. They're going to cut Social Security. And a lot of those people are going to die.
Right.
And that's a pretty conscious decision.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't sound like a futuristic novel. That sounds like a realistic novel about 2025.
Well,
Yeah.
if you look at what they're doing, you think, okay, Robert Kennedy is involved in some very twisted social Darwinist experiment.
Yeah.
So let's take our grandkids swimming in a toxic swamp because they've got healthy immune systems and they will resist it. And people who don't have healthy immune systems, well, too bad for them. They're not the fit.
Wow, that's even darker than I thought you were going to go. So you see it as like some kind of...
It's just speculation.
Yeah, no,
Is it conscious thinking? I don't know. But that will be the result.
Well, I mean, you can already, like, the decline in life expectancies and that's already...
What do we need these poor people kicking around for? Let's just finish them off.
Wow.
Remove their support systems.
What's the working title for that?
Genocide of the poor.
Wow.
Well, the things that have been happening in Texas and Florida with pregnant women are just sick.
Yeah.
These are people who claim to love babies and mommy's giving birth, etc., and they'll let you die in a parking lot if something is going wrong with your birth process.
So what do you think Canada should do to protect ourselves from this madness? Like this madness, like it seems to me like whether it's Trump or whether it's the American people or whether it's the system, we don't know what's coming, but we know it's chaotic and we know it's violent.
It's not necessarily coming here.
Right.
So what protects us from that kind of thing is us. So you don't put in laws like those in Florida and Texas without electing people who believe those kinds of things. Right. And I don't think we're anywhere near doing that.
There's a distinction between Canada and the United States that everyone feels, but also can't articulate. And how do we get to the point where we articulate? I mean, do you think this time, like last time was cultural nationalism?
Oh, I think we've articulated it quite well.
Right. In the 60s, yeah.
And now too.
Yeah. Right. But this is another moment where we have to really rethink the whole project.
We have to rethink the whole project. And that happened with the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 as well. That was a reset. Whenever one of those big things happens, you think that you've only moved one chessman on the board. You've actually moved all of them because they all start moving around. Cold War is over. Things open up. Dare I whisper, trade with China.
Right. Yeah.
Which, during Mao wasn't there. So all of these things get rearranged. And as technology changes, new materials become important.
We've done the how would you write about America? We got genocide against the poor as a title, but like, if it's a
I
moment
don't
of
think that would be a very appealing
no,
title.
I think we could all do better than that.
It's
But
too
but
academic
yeah,
sounding.
too academic sounding. But what would a hope? There's a reset. We look back from this on 10 years and we realize that it's been great for Canada. What does that look like? Like
Oh, if it has been great for Canada.
hope? I
Yeah,
mean, like
yeah.
what are the moments of optimism that we could have here?
Oh, quite a few. I will just mention that during the
No, I'd
well,
like as much detail as you can give me
yeah,
on the
yeah.
hope.
I'm just doing a little flashback to
Right.
the Mulroney free trade debate in which people were actually not speaking to each other.
Right.
Yes, because they differed politically, and one of them said, "Well, I'll certainly never play bridge with them again."
But they go back
Things
to playing
got
bridge
quite
with each other?
violent.
That's how violent it got, eh?
Yeah,
That's how
yeah.
tense it got, eh? Right.
Well, yes, we make fun of Canada's being more civilized, but maybe we're not going to make quite so much fun of it anymore
Right.
right now.
Right.
Yes, you know that joke. How do you get 40 Canadians out of a swimming pool?
I love it.
Come on, you Canadians, out of that swimming
Yeah.
pool.
Hey, I heard it as, "Hey guys, can you get out of the pool?" But
Things got more casual
yeah,
with your
things got more
generation.
casual. Yeah, yeah.
And then how do you get 40 Quebecers out of a swimming pool?
Say, let me guess. You can't get out. You're not allowed to get out of this
No,
pool.
no, no, no,
What?
no. For the 100th time, get out of the swimming pool. Yes,
Right.
they've saved us by their stubbornness many times.
It has been fascinating to me to see that when the chips are down, they really are on our side.
Well,
You
they're
know, I
on the
did not
side
expect
of
that.
preserving themselves, and they know that if we became the 51st state, that would go.
Yeah.
They know about Louisiana. They saw what happened there.
Right. What worries you most at this moment?
At my age,
Yeah.
can I get out of bed in the morning?
Well, about
there-
the world, or do you just not worry about the world? Do you think it'll go on just as before with
Well,
all the usual
something will
nightmares
go
and
on.
usual dreams, right?
Something will go on.
Right.
I think the really big overarching question is, are we going to drive ourselves to extinction? But that probably is not going to happen in your lifetime, and certainly not in mine unless something very unexpected happens,
Let's
such
knock
as
on wood.
a meteorite.
Right. Or, well, also nuclear war is being booted around again, but
Well, it is, but I kind of don't think so.
right. So are you would you consider yourself optimistic then?
I'm always optimistic.
Really? That's
Well, you have to be optimistic to be a writer. You know that.
yeah.
Am I going to finish this?
Yeah.
Is it going
Will
to be any
anyone
good?
will anyone buy
Am
it?
I going to be able to sell it?
Yeah.
Um,
Don't remind me.
will anybody read it?
Yeah.
Will I get horrible reviews?
You still have those anxieties, eh?
They're not anxieties. They're just givens. They're givens that go with the
Wow,
job.
like 50
But you
mammoth
need
blockbusters doesn't help. Like doesn't help, like be your face on a stamp doesn't help with these little crises.
these are not crises or anxieties.
Right.
They're just laying it out on the table
Right.
for what it is. So yeah, I'm pretty used to all of that.
Right.
Um,
Were you surprised by the reaction in Canada? Like I was. I mean, and I think of myself. I wrote the next Civil War. I was studying this stuff
yeah, I
pretty
know.
intensely.
Yeah.
I was shocked by it. Right. Like I did not expect the Canadian reaction that happened. I did not expect it at all. But with this stuff that you saw in the 60s, did you expect this kind of reaction?
From Canada right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be dissed and taken for granted like that. And everybody can also see that if you're going to be the 51st state, you're going to have all the same problems that they have, which we happen not to have to such an extent.
People who are like Donald Trump, I really don't want to be like them. Like
Well, I don't think
yeah.
you need fear because you're not going to be.
Right. Right. Yeah. Like you don't like there. What would you put the chances of Canada becoming the 51st state at?
Low.
0 or low?
Oh, I'd never put anything at 0.
Right. Okay.
But I would say low at the moment because in order to control that many people in that big a space, you'd have to have major buy-in. We don't need a new Canadian cultural nationalism. We
have one.
It built what it built the institutions that we have now. So I don't think it's a question of building other institutions. I think it's a question of rejuvenating the ones we have and regaining some kind of faith in them. So I think, for instance, the ever-present problem of the CBC, that before the Trudeau resignation to the Trump incumbency and the arrival of Carney, people are going, oh yeah, CBC, yawn.
Right.
And Polly Everett was going, yeah, well, I'm going to eradicate it.
Right.
But then people all of a sudden saw a need for it, because that's where they were going to get their news of the election. That's where they were going to get the latest on what's been happening with Trump saying 51st state and that kind of thing. People are pretty unified in their desire not to be the 51st state. And you find that across the country. And yes, even in Alberta.
Thank you very much.
You're
I mean,
very
this
welcome.
is wonderful conversation, and I'm so grateful that you showed up in my house.
Yeah, I'm grateful I made it to your house.
Do you want an Uber back?
No.
It's, I guess
I'm
it's close
joking.
enough.
I'm
Yeah.
not as decrepit as all that yet.
Great. Thank you so much.
You are welcome.